Merkel Media.
What does the goddamn line say, Tony?
Please do not language.
Then what? I'll be arrested, put in airport jail?
Look, you're going completely sideways, man.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
How dare you?
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I'm Chris Hansen with Dave on NBC.
Jack Marius Tack Theratrix.
Hi, I'm Spartacus.
Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. Steven Seagal.
Sex offender guy.
I'm Keith Morris.
This is Muammar Gaddafi.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Sorting through the lies.
The hijacker's passport was found blocks.
$1 million in transactions.
And uncovering the
Learning about Cuba, having some food.
Let's talk about Chinese people.
Have you ever been in a turkey swangles in Fort Lauderdale?
I have sent 6 of my Libyan missiles to blow up the Sears hardware department.
Nothing could be more fun than jumping off a cliff with 2 German bisexuals.
Oh, you English are so superior, aren't you?
Thank you, comrade.
And now, Macroaggressions.
That's what assholes call it.
With your host,
Buddy, I don't know who you are, but you're about to get chlamydia.
Charlie Robinson.
Hey, Whitey, where's your hat?
You want to drop the blame on Charlie and say it's all Charlie's fault.
He was a retard.
I get some goddamn diuretic.
Welcome to Macroaggressions. I'm your host, Charlie Robinson. If you are watching us on Rockfin, Odyssey, Band.video, or you're listening wherever podcasts are served, thank you so much. We appreciate the support. You can also catch us as a radio show. Did you know that? On Fringe FM. Check us out Mondays and Fridays there. If you want to connect with me, the website is theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Macroaggressions. I certainly do appreciate all of the support that I get on Twitter. It is a lot of fun arguing with dumb people and probably robots, but I do it even against my own best interests. Hey, thanks to our sponsors. My Patriot Supply has been with us from the beginning. They built a landing page for us called preparewithmacroaggressions.com. The link will be in the show notes if you want to click on that. I'm telling you what, they've got everything that you need. They've got a deal right now on 3-month supplies of food, of storable food. It's $250 off their normal price. I would suggest take advantage of that. I frankly am a little surprised that they're offering a sale on this. If ever there was a time to raise the price by $250, I would think now would be the time and not to do a discount. But hey, it's offered. Let's take it. Let's be proactive. Let's get out in front of this stuff. If you're already set up, great. I hope everybody is. God knows I've been going on and on about this, but I think it's really very important that we are set up with food and we don't have to worry about some of these bumps in the road. So if you're done and you're all taken care of, fantastic. What about someone in your family? Are they set up? Do you want to send them some food? You can do so. You can get on the website and take care of all that in about 10 minutes. So preparewithmacroaggressions.com. You can find everything you need there. You can get a 4-week supply. You can get a 3-month supply of food. They have survival coffee. They have water purification and air filtration devices. They have all kinds of things there. It's like, camping for paranoid people, I guess. I don't know. So take a look, see if there's anything that jumps out at you, and get yourself ready. You don't want to be the last person to figure this out. I don't think this audience is going to be the last people to figure this out, frankly. I think you're going to be ahead of the curve, but still, better to be couple months early than a day late on this. So let's think about things like that. Also, Chemical Free Body. Thank you to Tim James. He is the owner of the company. He's been on this show many times to talk to us about how we can improve our physical health. God, when you're feeling bad, there's nothing worse. You just would trade anything to feel healthy again. I think the theme running through this show is being proactive, right? Let's just do things early so that we don't have to do twice as much later. If you take care of yourself, if you take care of your body, you're going to be in a much better physical shape to battle these, what we face coming up. It'll help you mentally too. So I'll tell you, last summer, in the summer of 2021, Tim put me through the Gut and Detox, Total Energy and Detox Bundle, the Detox in a Box, they call it, over at Chemical Free Body. And it was pretty impressive. It was so impressive, in fact, that I filmed like a 2-minute video you can check out. You can go to chemicalfreebody.com/macro and see that landing page. And I'll show you. My shorts didn't fit after going through this 90-day program. I think I did the 90-day program in 75 days. So I don't know, for whatever reason, I finished it early, and it leaned me out good. And I didn't really think that I had much weight to lose. And I certainly wasn't trying to lose any weight. I was just trying to take the Green 85, the gut detox, the toxin detox, the probiotics, the ultra enzymes, just taking these capsules, just take a couple capsules in the morning and then do a glass of Green 85 in the morning. But I've been doing that for 2 years now. I feel fantastic. I really think it's something you should consider. You'll never get a hard sell from me on any of this stuff. I realize that vitamins are sketchy. People go, well, so they really don't work. I understand that. I fully understand that. That's why I'm so grateful that I found some that do work, because so many of them are frauds. So I'll tell you what, Tim James has I think a double your money back guarantee. So he's really confident that his products are going to work. I am too. I've been taking them for a while. So chemicalfreebody.com/macro if you want to take a look at the gut and toxin detox package. Otherwise, just use the promo code MACRO on your way out. Save yourself a little bit of money. You're going to need it. We're getting into some weird times, and I think it's important that we, get ourselves physically ready, get ourselves mentally ready, get ourselves prepared with food and batteries and all the backup things that you might need. We have supply chain issues. We got problems, man. They're coming for us. So we're going to have to be prepared. Now, the Biden administration has a great plan. Like most of their plans, they're fantastic, well thought out, available for everybody to participate in. And this is what they want you to do. We understand that gas prices are high. We understand that we're having an energy crisis that's totally and fully being made to happen by the current administration. But there's a solution. And I feel like on this show, we're always looking for solutions. And the solution to all your problems is to buy an electric car. Simple. Yeah, episode over. Thank you for coming. Please share with your friends and family. We've figured out the problem. We've solved it. It's just buy an electric car. If you buy an electric car, everything's going to be fine. Joe Biden told us so. I mean, he didn't really tell us so because he doesn't really speak very well, but his administration has come out and been very clear that, Pete Buttigieg is out there and he's telling you that, gas prices are high, but if you have an electric car, you don't even see the gas stations. You just drive right by them. Electric cars, they grow on trees, don't you know? It's really frustrating. It's oh God, to listen to these jerk-offs talk to you like everybody's a millionaire is really insulting. It's insulting and it doesn't help. And but this is what you get when you have a detached group of Washington D.C. socialites that are in this bubble, and they're in this coastal bubble, whether it's the left, the Los Angeles, that whole faction, San Francisco, living in their bubble of avocado toast and brunch and everything, or you're the New York City, Washington D.C. crowd where everything is, everybody can just go, jet off to the Bahamas for a weekend. It's no big deal. So they're living in a total fantasy land that the 95% of the population of America has no connection to at all. So when they say just go buy an electric car, they mean it, which is crazy. And you should be rightly offended by it. And I want to get into this because the plan for the electric vehicles is retarded. Okay, there's no other way to describe it. It is taking your fully functioning brain and smashing yourself in the head with a rock a bunch of times and then putting out statements about how you're going to solve electrical crisis. It's disjointed and insane and right on brand actually for the Biden administration. So let's talk about the energy crisis being solved by electric cars. Just the easiest thing you can do is walk into a Tesla showroom and let's just do the new model. I went this morning online just to get the most up-to-date prices because I wasn't sure if we were going to where we would be. But as of this morning, the price for a Tesla, a 2022 Model S, which is their top-of-the-line Tesla, the base model. This is before you put ludicrous speed on and the they sell. I don't know what Teslas have. But anyway, the base level is $156,990 and this car is going to save you money at the gas station. Listen, if you're spending $157,000 base level on a car, you're not worried about gas. Gas is not your problem. Okay. The sales pitch is to the wrong consumer group. These people are not price sensitive. A used 2021 Model Y, which is kind of like the SUV-ish looking one, a used one is still $75,500. So what's your problem, man? What's wrong? Why are you complaining about gas prices when you could just go buy a Tesla for $75,500? Then your gas prices are solved right there. And then it also costs, I think it costs an extra, if you want to get the level 2 charger installed at your home, that's another $2,000. But you got to do that. I mean, come on. Because it's all about saving money, right? Am I right? $60 a month on average to charge your car. As opposed to like whatever $200 a month based on comparable. I think the number that they showed was like $180 of gas and as opposed to $60 a month on electric bills. That's great. If you can get if instead of buying gas you just buy electricity and it costs you a third of the price of gas, then that is mathematically a win for you. However, there's a little bit more to this scenario than just swapping out, than just looking at those numbers. There's a whole lot more. First of all, I just mentioned the charger. So there's $2,000. Do you have to charge your gas powered vehicle? No. No, you do not. But you do have to charge your electric car. And if you're in a situation where you need a fast charge for it, it'll cost you considerably more than $60 a month. You might spend, the example I saw here was you wanted to charge up your car 70% to get 70% more charge in your battery, cost about $20 and took 50 minutes to charge it up on a fast charge. So, I mean, I go to the gas station. If I fill up my car, I'm in and out of there in like 5 to 10 minutes, not 50 minutes. And, again, it'd be nice to only pay $20 and have your car 70% filled up. But there's more factors than that. We're going to get into it. The Department of Energy says that it costs half as much to drive an electric vehicle than a traditional gas-powered vehicle. That's what they say. Okay, maybe it does cost that much just to drive it. But what about maintenance? What about buying one? What about everything? What about the battery? Ooh, we're going to get into that. There's a lot to this story, and I think that we're going to start by examining the horrific job that the state of California is doing with their energy management program. And while simultaneously telling everybody that they need to get electric cars, not just need to get electric cars, they're going to make it law that you have to have an electric car, or at the very least, you're not allowed to buy a gas-powered car in their state by 2035. This is an idea that is so anchored in stupidity that only somebody like Gavin merry psychopaths could have come up with an idea this dumb. But we'll pick it apart as we do. This is from the California Independent Systems Operator. It doesn't have anything to do with electric cars necessarily, but I just want you to hear. This is from them. The top 3 conservative actions are to set thermostats to 78 or higher, avoid using large appliances and charging electric vehicles, and turn off unnecessary lights. That's from the California Independent System Operator. They deal with electricity in the state of California. They have some tips for you on how to conserve electricity. One of their tips is to not charge your electric car. While they simultaneously, the state of California is telling everybody that they need to get electric cars while having brownouts on their power grid. This is just grade A level insanity. So California Air Resource Board, they're the group in charge of this. They're the group that's pushing this insanity on California. They want 100% electric vehicles by 2035. Okay. That is 13 years from today. They want everything in California to be 100% electric. And on a side note to this, which is not getting talked about much, but it's really probably only going to affect a few, like a few million people. But it's worth noting that the state of Virginia signed on to do whatever the CARB decides, the CARB, California Air Resource Board. So for some reason, a couple years ago, the state of Virginia was dealing with something similar, and they went ahead and put it in their laws, passed a law that said the state of Virginia will do whatever the state of California's CARB does, this group, this resource board. So whatever they decide, Virginia's got to do too. Well, they in California just decided that they're going to need to go to 100% electric vehicles by 2035. And so all the news is about California going to that. I've got news for you. Virginia, you're going to it too. You just don't know it yet. It's in your laws. You guys passed the law tying yourself to this insanity. Have fun. And it is dumb. It's a dumb idea. But here's how it slates out. So for California cars, they want to do 35% net zero. They call it net zero. This is hysterical. 35% net zero by 2026. So, okay, we're 4 years away from having 1 out of every 3 cars in California be net zero. And for those of you that don't know about California is huge geographically. It's filled with a ton of people, and they drive a lot. There's not a whole lot of there's no subways. Well, there's like a shitty subway in LA that nobody uses, but there's really there's very little train access. There's some Amtraks that go from like San Diego all the way up to San Francisco, but it's not used very, very often. It's not well known. It's not publicized. It's a car driving state. I know. I lived there for 35 years. I'm very familiar with California. It's nobody walks in LA as the old Missing Persons song. Yeah, because you have to drive everywhere. Just geographically, the way it's spread out, it's not New York City. It's not San Francisco. You can't just jump in an Uber and get anywhere. If you live at the beach and you need to get somewhere else, you're on the freeway. And the freeways are a disaster and all of that. So they're going to take a third of the cars in a state that's massive, filled with a ton of people and heavily dependent on cars, and they want to turn them into net zero in just 4 years. That's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. But their ambitions exceed that, because by 2030, they want 68%. So now they want 2/3 of all the cars in the next 8 years in there. Again, ambitious because it's insane. And then by 2035, they want to ban the sale of all gas-powered vehicles. Just ban it. Because if there's one thing that America is known for in their, quote, free market system, it's banning things, right? We're just going to ban cars. So it's short-sighted. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help the environment at all. We're going to get into why that's a non-starter. And I think it's government overreach. Look, if you want to buy an electric vehicle, buy one. If you've got the money, if you think a Tesla is cool to drive, because they're cool cars, like the insides are amazing. They're so fast too. Like they're surprisingly fast. Like this little SUV, this Model Y SUV is like 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. That's like a race car. They're fast as fuck. But again, if you want to buy it because it's a cool car and the electronics inside are neat and it all that, go for it. And you've got the money. But if you're buying it because you think you're saving the environment, I have some really bad news for you. Not only are you not saving the environment, you're creating a brand new ecological catastrophe on the other side of the world that is very real and that you just don't see, and it isn't going to wind up on the nightly news because you would rightly not be buying electric cars if you saw this. So in perfect ironic timing, though, as soon as CARB announced this push to go to 100% EV by 2035, within 3 days, California went into a level 1 emergency right after announcing this plan. A level 1 electrical emergency, which was due to unusual heat conditions, which aren't unusual because it's the end of August, in California. They said because of this unseasonably hot time, during the summer when it's always unseasonably hot, we're going to a level 1 emergency, which means that some things kick in and some restrictions kick in, and you can't, you have to turn off your set your thermostats lower. You don't have to, but it's advised to do all of these things because what they're trying to tell you is that there's so much pressure on the power grid that we run the risk of having blackouts or brownouts or whatever, these either temporary reductions to the power supply. California is a disaster. I mean, they just cannot figure it out. So, and I would suggest that they can't figure it out because they don't want to figure it out. But they're doing all the wrong things. If you were trying to figure it out, like shutting down nuclear power plants and shutting down oil, and we're going to get into this. But California is just, they're banning gas powered leaf blowers, like. The minutia that they focus on at the expense of real problems is just, it's comical to me. You've got the United States Navy going out of San Diego and aircraft carriers that put out more carbon into the atmosphere than entire cities. Okay. They're floating cities that are going 24/7. And California is going to ban leaf blowers because leaf blowers are ruining the environment. Please explain to me the logic in that. I will wait as long as it takes. So let's talk about some of the electric vehicle statistics and some of the science and the math behind it, because it doesn't make sense if the goal is to reduce carbon in the atmosphere. We're gonna reduce greenhouse gases. We're going to make this a more equitable planet to live on, and all the buzzwords and all that stuff. It doesn't make any sense, because here's the truth of it. Electric cars are powered by fossil fuel based power plants. Where does the electricity for your electric car come from? Well, it comes from the electric grid. Where does the electric grid get that power? They get it from a couple of sources. They get it from oil, natural gas, coal, or nuclear. Those oil, natural gas, and coal are responsible for 60% of the nation's electrical grid, and only 20% is coming from nuclear. Okay, nuclear is clean energy. Nuclear has a really bad reputation because of 3 Mile Island and Fukushima and the what went on in Ukraine back in the 80s. So there's a lot of problems here. Chernobyl was a big deal. Obviously, it made international headlines, as did Fukushima. 3 Mile Island, I don't know. That was in the 70s. It was sort of less prominent, but nuclear got a bad reputation because of that. But the irony is that nuclear is one of the safest forms of energy generation that we have. And so it has to be demonized, right? Because it's safe and cheap and effective and takes up a small footprint and all those things that you would want. So of course we have to demonize it, right? But so it's like the electricity that's going into your electric car is coming from a coal burning power plant. So stop with this, I'm saving the world, I'm so green. You're just trading in one for another. You're just trading in combustion gasoline for coal burning power plants. Again, there's nothing there's nothing conservative about this. We're not conserving anything by doing this. We're just trading. We're just trading off one for the other. There will be a 40% demand rise in California, power demand rise in California once the 2035 law goes into place. This is according to them. This is not according to me. It's according to their numbers. That once this goes into place in 2035, let's pretend like we've gotten to 2035, and it's now all gas powered vehicles are banned or they're not selling them, and it's 100% EV. There's going to be a 40% demand in power on California's electrical grid when they get there. Now, mind you, this is a power grid that can't hold up right now. And you're going to increase it by 40% with electric cars, even though you come out and say that one of the top 3 conservation actions is to avoid charging electric vehicles. So you're on the one hand telling people you have to have an electric vehicle. It's the only way. And and of course, if you have an electric vehicle, you have to charge it, right? You're telling them they have to have that, while at the same time telling people you need to conserve and not charge it. So what is it? What do you want us to do? Have electric vehicles and not charge them, or what? So they described this 40% demand on the California electrical grid as the equivalent of adding 2 air conditioning units to every house. That is not an inconsequential amount of energy. I mean, if you run 2 air conditioning units at your house, you will notice that in your air conditioning bills. As somebody that grew up in Palm Springs, California, where it gets to be 120 degrees in the summer, and then lived in Las Vegas, where it gets to be 110 degrees in the summer, I understand the need and the costs associated with running air conditioning units during the day in summers. It is very expensive. If you look at your electrical bill for the year, if you're with a company that will give you like a bar chart, you'll see it spike dramatically for like 4 or 5 months before it finally comes back down. That's because you're running your air conditioning. What California is saying is that once they get this into place, it's going to be like adding 2 air conditioning units to every house. So goodbye power grid. Unless California is saying something, which they're not, but unless they were saying something like, in the meantime, we are building out a brand new state-of-the-art power grid that's going to supply all of California. Even if they said that, I wouldn't believe them and I wouldn't think it would work. But let's just pretend like they were going to get it right. They would have to do that. They're building they're building on the back of a power grid that's already failing, and they're talking about increasing it. It's idiotic. And let's not skip past this either. 20 million households in America are currently behind on their electrical payments. That's 1 in 6 households in America are behind on their electric bills. So, of course, tell them to get an electric car, which they can't afford because the average electric car is like $66,000. And then you've got to get the charging station, and then you've got to pay for electricity, which you're being told simultaneously you can't use or you shouldn't use. What do you think's going to happen? $60 a month to charge your electric car on average? What do you think that's really going to look like in 2035? It's not going to look like $60 a month. It might look like $600 a month. In fact, I would expect it to be that. I would expect it to be at least 10 times higher than what it is now. Why wouldn't it be? What are you going to do? Go fill up with gas? You can't. Now you're trapped. Now you have to pay for their electricity, and you don't have any other options. So good luck with that. Oh, and just to add insult to injury, 1/3 of the charging stations in San Francisco are currently broken. Way to go. I mean, I guess it's on brand though with everything else that's broken in San Francisco. Why would the charging stations work? The utility companies will need to make massive improvements to their infrastructure just to keep up with this new quote demand, fake demand, but forced demand. What they said that would look like in terms of these utility companies, these power companies, these companies that service the grid and make sure that the power gets distributed everywhere. What they said was that it's going to look like, to their bottom line, spending about $6,000 per new car added to the road just to upgrade their current system. So think of all of the millions of cars that are going to be added, the electric cars, and then just take each one of those cars and add $6,000. That's what the companies are going to need as far as infrastructure improvements to their own system. They're telling you this right now. The utility companies are saying we can't handle this. We could handle it, but we're going to need to add, it's going to cost us about $6,000 for every car that's added onto this system. So does that make sense? Do you think they're not going to pass that along to you? Of course they are. I mean, of course they are. They're not going to, they may pay for it up front, but you'll pay for it in the end and then some. And like I said, you'll be stuck. You don't get like 19 different choices when you sign up to get power to your house. You get like 1 or 2 maybe. You can't shop around. It's not going to be like, well, I was going to go with Southern California Edison, but their prices are too high, so I'm going to go with Bob's Discount Electricity. No. That's not how it works. You get Southern California Edison or you get jack shit, and you pay what they tell you to pay at the rates they tell you to pay. And, we just had to spend all this money on our infrastructure, and this stuff isn't cheap. And so guess what? You're paying for it now. Enjoy it, or move somewhere else. Move to another state. Average price for an EV is $66,000. That is 13% higher than just last year. Congratulations. The price of these cars are going up quite a bit. This is $18,000 more on average than a typical combustion engine car. So you're paying for the pleasure and privilege of driving an electric vehicle. Again, you're going to have to do the math calculations on this. You're going to have to figure out if all, oh yeah, well, look, I pay half what you pay to fill up your car with gas. Okay, yeah, but your car costs on average $18,000 more. So how much gas do I need to buy? I feel like this is going to be on the SAT or something. A car is leaving Chicago. An electric car is leaving California. It's cost $18,000 more than its counterpart. How much gas would you have to, how much cheaper would your electricity have to be for you to break even on this purchase? I've seen the numbers. It takes 80 years. Have you ever kept a car for 80 years? Are you going to live another 80 years? I'm not. Not at the rate I'm going. Not if I keep talking to people about the shit that's going on in the government. I may not make it 8 years. And then, I think we've all seen, maybe not everybody has seen this, but recently there was an invoice that was going or making the rounds in social media from somebody that was getting a replacement battery for, I think, a Chevy Volt. It was a low-end EV. It certainly wasn't a Tesla. It was something like a small little car. The replacement battery was $27,000 for the battery. There had been a battery in the car, and you see it didn't last very long. Now, I'm, again, traditional combustion engines break too. Okay, I'm not trying to say that they run forever. And I'm not even particularly I'm not like pro combustion engine, anti electric car either. I'm just saying that as it stands currently, the numbers don't make any sense. If you have to spend $27,000 to get a replacement battery for your used car that isn't worth $27,000, then it might be time to drive that car into the lake and make an insurance claim. or leave it running in the hood with the windows down and the keys in it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not penciling out at 27,000. Now, I do a show called Day Zero with a couple guys. It's a fun show. It's a wild show. But one of the guys on there, Xcube 420, he works in the automobile industry and service industry, and he knows all of this. And I asked him about this car. I said, "Is this bullshit? This seems fake to me." This 20. He says it's 100% real. He said, I deal with this all the time. He said, he explained an interaction he had with a customer that had the same sort of thing. The customer's like, "Please tell me, like, you can fix this without me having to replace the battery." And they did something to it. And he said, "You got to drive this home and plug it in immediately. We got you kind of fixed up, but this isn't going to last." And he said, within a week, the guy was back in there saying it did it again. And he said, "Yeah, you need a new battery. There's only so many fixes you can have. There's only so many patches you can have. You're going to need a new battery for your car. And the new battery for your car is going to cost you in the mid $20,000 range." And the guy's like, I can't do that. Yeah, this is happening. There's graveyards in France filled with EVs with battery problems. Toxic waste designation on these, where they have all these cars. This is not environmentally friendly. It's not financially responsible. The math doesn't work out on it. There's a whole lot to this. And again, we're going to get into a little bit deeper dive into this, but the batteries that are used, these $27,000 batteries, they're special batteries, very special. They use a lot of cobalt, and 70% of cobalt is found in the Congo, where it is mined by slave children. So congratulations, avocado toast people. Your electric vehicle is responsible for some really devious stuff that you probably don't want to think about while you're having mimosas and if you're in San Francisco, having mimosas in your outdoor cafe for brunch while you watch some guy shoot fentanyl on the sidewalk in front of you. So let's talk about Biden's insane Build Back Better plan. I want to credit powerthefuture.com as a great place, a resource where I got a lot of this information. So let's start in January 2021 when this deranged old lunatic comes into office. Gas is $2.38 a gallon. Very reasonable for gasoline. He immediately in January cancels the Keystone Pipeline. Of course, he said he would. I don't want to pretend like he made some campaign promise, like he was going to keep all this stuff, keep our energy, independence. And no, he said off the bat, "I'm going to destroy the energy production facilities inside America. I'm going to destroy the pipelines. I'm going to make everything more difficult. I'm going to get everybody into this Build Back Better program." Build Back Better, of course, as we've mentioned many times in this show, is the destruction is implied in the name. It would be build better. Otherwise, it's build back better, implying that it has to be destroyed first for you to build it back again, better than it was before. There's nothing better about this. He issues a moratorium on federal land production. So he cut off 25% of the nation's crude oil supply right there. He stopped drilling in ANWR, which is the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And again, there are some environmental concerns I have. I don't want us to just start drilling in Alaska and turning, I remember with Exxon Valdez and I don't want to have these sort of catastrophes that are environmental, ecological disasters. I don't want any of that. But as we transition from a world of petroleum to a world fueled by something else, we're going to need to have this, we're going to need to use oil and gas for at least the foreseeable future as we transition to something else. And a conversation can definitely be had about how there's free energy technology out there and guys that discover cars that run on water and then they wind up getting shot twice in the head. We know about all that stuff. And hopefully we'll get to a point where we're being serious and we're having an honest conversation about different ways of creating energy that go beyond petroleum and electricity. So, but until then, I just want to set the tone for what Biden did. 7.6 barrels of oil come from ANWR. 7 trillion cubic feet of natural gas comes from ANWR, and he cut it off right away. What do you think that's going to do? He canceled an 80 million barrel oil gas lease in the Gulf. In May of 2021, he waived sanctions on Nord Stream 2 while killing the Keystone Pipeline. In July of 2021, he begs OPEC for more oil production. He basically goes to Saudi Arabia and says, please produce more oil for us. We need more oil, while cutting off our own oil, which is ridiculous. He then proposes in August of 2021 through this Build Back Better scam, he proposes raising taxes on energy companies. Now, if you want, I'm not a fan of taxes at all, but he says, I'm going to tax the oil and natural gas companies. He creates 12 new taxes. These taxes are set to collect $3 trillion over the next decade from the oil and gas industries. He's taxing them to death. He wants them to die. October 2021, Biden blames the same energy companies that he's taxing the shit out of. He blames them for anti-competitive practices. The pathology of these people. November 2021, UN Climate Change Conference, COP26. Biden pledges to spend $555 billion of U.S. taxpayer money on climate change. I know. I'm like you. He couldn't do $666 billion. He probably wanted to, and some advisors like, we got to cool it on the satanic shit. So instead they go with $555 billion of U.S. taxpayer money on climate change. If you know anything about climate change, you know that is a gigantic scam. So he's like, let's take $500 billion of U.S. dollars that we could spend on, I don't know, anything else, and let's use it for climate change, whatever that is. And then while trying to explain this horrible idea to people, he has Biden's energy secretary, Jennifer Granholm, goes on and gets interviewed and is asked, the interviewer asks a question about domestic production, and she just laughs in the interviewer's face. Just laughs. The Kamala cackle, the Clinton chuckle. One of those. So now by this point, at the end of this first year, gas is now $3.32. It was $2.38. Now it's $3.32, a 40% increase just in a year. But it will skyrocket after that, as we know. Currently, gasoline inventories are at a near decade low. Diesel inventories are nearly 50% below average on the East Coast of the United States. Why? Why are they so low? Why are they keeping these levels so low? Because they want chaos. They want confusion. Why are they fucking this up so badly? It's not accidental. I mean, they are incompetent. Let's give them that. But they're doing these policies are put there on purpose. So just understand the insanity of this. Biden is begging foreign countries to produce more oil while simultaneously banning exploration inside America. And not even necessarily like exploration, just the current leases that they've got, he's stopping those. What's going on in the Gulf of Mexico, what's going on in Alaska, what's going on with the Keystone Pipeline, what's going on domestically. He wants all that stuff stopped while begging foreign countries for oil so that we can be dependent on foreign countries for oil and not have our own energy independence. It's insanity. And then, let's not forget this fine piece of work by the Biden administration. We sold a bunch of our strategic petroleum to the Why? The same groups that are working with Hunter Biden, we sold the oil that we keep sort of stored away for a rainy day, just in case we have an energy crisis, like, I don't know, right now. Instead of saying, well, we're certainly at a point where we're going to need this now. Let's either tap into it, or at least we know we've got it. No. They said, let's sell a bunch of this to the Chinese. The Chinese who don't have a problem buying gas from Russia. They can buy all the gas they want from Russia. They don't need any gas. But we're like, hey, want to buy some gas? They're like, yeah, sure. If for no other reason than to take it. America is now at 40-year lows of the U.S. Strategic Oil Reserve. Congratulations. We have gone from 700 million barrels that we had stored up under Trump to 350 million barrels under design. It's not accidental. They're not, look, if a dummy like me can figure this out, then they know what's going on. So let's talk about Biden's Inflation Reduction Bill, a $740 billion bill. And let's tie this back to electric cars. So number one on the list, a $7,500 tax break for rich people to buy electric vehicles. That was in this bill. I'll have you know that quite literally the next day, car manufacturers announced that they were raising the prices of their electric vehicles by $7,500. You can't make this up. They're so stupid. They're so stupid. They're so dishonest. We're gonna have $7,500 tax break. Oh, that'll fix everything. And so the car companies go, oh, you're going to give $7,500 to the people? Well, we'll just raise the price of our cars by $7,500. Problem solved. There goes that tax break, just completely nullified itself. Good job, Joe Biden. By the way, this humongous pile of dog shit, this Inflation Reduction Bill, it passed 50. Ironic. 50 is the call for dealing with mentally ill people, which is very much appropriate. There's $27 billion in this bill for green banks. Do you know what green banks are? We're going to have to do a little bit more of a dive in that. I just got done talking to Whitney Webb about this. Actually, not in the interview that we did, but off air, talking about green banks and what that scam is going to look like. It is going to be a gigantic scam. I know everybody's very surprised to hear me say that, but there's $27 billion, which sounds like nothing really if you think about it. 27 billion here, 27 billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money, right? There is $3 billion set aside for the post office to go to electric vehicles. So now all the mailmen will be driving electric cars, which is something, I guess. But here's one for you. $60 billion. That's another way to put that is $60,000 million is going towards, quote, environmental justice programs. Please tell me what that is. I mean, I know what it is. I know what they say it is. It is for marginalized communities historically impacted by climate change. Man, I just think about all those cities that folded, because of climate change. Boy, if only there was $60,000 million set aside for the environmental justice for the marginalized communities. What the fuck are you people even talking about? What are you talking about? This is just a gigantic scam. It's like, can we mix social justice with environmentalism? Let's call it environmental justice. What could possibly go wrong? We'll put Kamala Harris in charge of it. That'll work. $60 billion for environmental justice programs. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. You guys going to fix that? Is that part of the environmental justice? Because that's environmental. I'd like some justice. It's affecting marginalized communities. What do you want to bet Flint, Michigan never gets clean drinking water? Among other places. Let's be fair. Mississippi just ran out of water. They don't have water anymore. They've got some sort of problem with their water system. And they're like, we just don't have any water. It's like, we're done. Are they going to get some of this money? I'm sure it will be squandered for sure. Look, I think we need to talk about a new segment of the population that's emerging. You've probably noticed them. Definitely, if you're on Twitter, you've seen the Extinction Rebellion morons that are gluing themselves to freeways in Germany's or gluing themselves to Van Gogh paintings or whatnot. Let's define these people as the eco-left. Shall we? I think that's a good name for them. The eco-left. It's hardcore leftists that are like have an environmental slant. Now, I'm all for saving the planet. And if I thought that making these changes was going to make this world a better place or make it last longer for all of the animals and plants and the biosphere and all of this, I would be in favor of it. I am in favor of preserving this planet and keeping it beautiful. I don't want masks in the ocean I don't want us dumping chemicals into the rivers. I don't want us polluting the air. I don't want all this stuff. But it's not about that. And I think that the eco left is a really scary group because they're mentally unhinged. They don't know anything. They don't have the facts. They're angry and they're convinced that the world's going to end in 7 years because they keep reading that everywhere. And they're low information people that typically low IQ, dangerous because they know just there's environmental issues, but they don't know who to be mad at for it. So they're taking direction from the media, which is a really bad idea to do. And they're getting whipped up into a frenzy and they're directing their anger at the wrong people. And they're directing their anger at the general public, which is crazy. When you glue yourself to a freeway in Germany, traffic, I want you to recognize that if some guy in an 18-wheeler decides, well, you know what? Today's the day that we solve this problem and I just run all of you over. I want you to understand something. I want the families of those people to understand something. You had it coming to you, okay? This is 100% your doing. And at some point, you're going to block a guy who's trying to get to work and and his boss told him, you're late one more day and we're going to fire your ass. And this guy's going to have it. And he's going to take it out on all you eco terrorists out there and come back with a shotgun and start regulating things. You know what I mean? And again, when this happens, and it will happen at some point in the future, maybe not in this exact scenario I've laid out, but some vigilante justice where some guy just this is the wrong day for you to fuck with this particular guy. And he's out of his mind and he's decided that he's going to take it to a place of violence. Just remember, you brought this on yourself. You get what you get. I'm not trying to excuse somebody for being violent in this. I'm just saying it's going to happen. And when it happens, don't act so surprised. And by the way, maybe don't put yourself in this situation. So they're missing the big picture. They don't have a very firm grasp on like basic economics. They don't understand. They certainly don't understand the climate scam. They don't understand what these guys at the Club of Rome are working on. They don't understand Al Gore and cap and trade and carbon taxes. This is PhD level shit that they're never going to figure out. They just know that they're mad because somebody in their Facebook group told them that they're supposed to be mad because we only have 7 years to live. Those people are dangerous, though. They're dangerous in their stupidity. So I would say, we need to be aware of where this can go. It's all fun and games, and we can make fun of the electric cars and kind of goof on them, and we will, and we should, and we are. But also the eco-terrorism component of this, that's like Antifa for eco-tards, I guess. This is going to be more of a thing. Because it's not organic necessarily. I mean, there's some people that are falling for it, but a lot of this is made to happen. It's agent provocateurs that are out there starting this. You've got Soros-backed things. You're going to see more and more and more of this. And but let's keep going. Biden also I forgot to mention this. Biden also proposed to cap the number of leases in the Gulf of Mexico to 10. There can only be 10 active leases happening for drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. But there is a little known stipulation in this proposal. There's also the option for that number to be reduced to as low as 0. So they have the option to just get rid of drilling in the Gulf of Mexico altogether. So, and of course that's on purpose. Right. So let's talk a little bit more about this. In this $740 billion inflation reduction bill, there is $369 billion to be spent on energy and climate change. That's a pretty broad term, right? Energy, whatever that, encapsulates, and climate change. That encapsulates all sorts of scams. And in this bill, a component that's been widely talked about, 87,000 new IRS agents at a cost of $203.7 billion for increased tax enforcement, plus another $80 billion and diverse. Because when the IRS shows up to my house, I prefer it be a transsexual Filipino one-legged midget because I like diversity. There's nothing in this package, in this $740 billion package for rail and trains, which is interesting because doesn't Hunter Biden sit on the board of Amtrak? Isn't Joe Biden like a big Amtrak supporter, the American train? For those that aren't in America, our train system is not really well built. It's not international. There's like regional trains from like New York City to Philly or New York to Washington DC and things like that. You know, there's sort of like regional travel, but for the most part, trains are not a thing in the US. They could be, and maybe they should be because they're low carbon output, but they get no love because Build Back Better. I don't know. So instead of putting money towards trains, they put money towards carbon capture technology. Oh, carbon capture technology. You mean trees? You're gonna put money towards trees? They're like, no, not that kind of. What that's carbon capture technology too? Yeah, that's what trees do. Yeah, you could do that. So they've got a new stupid buzzword. Get ready for it. You're going to be hearing it everywhere. Decarbonizing. We're decarbonizing everything. Again, I feel like I'm on crazy pills here and being completely redundant. But if we take all of the carbon out of the atmosphere, we all die. Which again is probably not the worst thing as far as they are concerned. But let's talk about this. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of what it takes to make an electric car, because this is not as easy as just, oh, well, we'll swap out a gasoline combustion engine for an electric engine and everything will be fine. Okay, but what about the battery? What about the part? This is a different sort of car. This car doesn't run the same way as a traditional car. So I want to get into the minerals, the needs behind these cars, because I think it's important to understand when the sales pitch is that this is a Green New Deal and everything is going to be environmentally friendly and we're getting away from that dirty old gasoline and we're moving into the clean technology of electricity. You say, okay, fine. What's the downside to it? Well, there's a huge downside to it. And not only that, not only is there an ecological downside to it, but from a strategic and security standpoint, nationally, there's a real problem with it. So let's talk about this. This is from the International Energy Agency, IEA. Quote, at least 30 times as much lithium, nickel, and other key minerals may be required for the electric car industry by 2040 to meet global climate targets. Not 30% more, 30 times more. 30 times more lithium, nickel, and other key minerals are going to be required. They say may be required. They say may be required because some of them are even higher than 30 times more. So conventional cars, they need copper and manganese. Okay. These are two elements that they need, two minerals that they need. Electric cars, they need double the copper and double the manganese of traditional cars, as well as lithium, nickel, zinc, cobalt, graphene, and rare earth minerals. Okay. 6 times more of these than are in a traditional car. So let's get into some statistics about, we've heard about all the, what goes into the batteries? A couple things. Lithium, nickel, and cobalt go into the batteries for the most part. Not limited to them, but they're the primary thing. So in order for this plan to come to fruition, that the Biden administration, that California, that, Build Back Better and all of this push, lithium demand for EV is going to grow by 43 times where it is right now. Okay. Nickel demand for EVs to grow 41 times from where it is currently. And cobalt demand will be between 6 and 30 times higher than it currently is. Lithium, nickel, and cobalt. If you have those elements, or if you're a country that has those elements, if you're a country that has a ton of cobalt, get ready, because you're about to get some democracy spread on your ass. It's coming. Who has all of that stuff? Democratic Republic of Congo is responsible for 70% of the cobalt. It comes from there. I'm going to make a prediction. Here comes my Nostradamus style prediction. I should write out quatrains. But I see in the future a moment in time where the Democratic Republic of Congo has a warlord dictator that needs to be of spreading democracy. And the United States will finance the opposition party. And if that doesn't work, then they'll assassinate the current countries around the world that also have access to materials and minerals and things that the United States covet. So we will start a war in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the that to the fucking bank, okay? Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they have 70% of the world's cobalt. We're going to need that to build back better. Got it? So let's get into some statistics here. You know, I like me some statistics. So 65% of graphite comes from China. Let's start a war with China when we need this graphite. 60% of rare earth minerals come from China. 70% of platinum comes from South Africa, and 10% comes from Russia. Better maintain those ties to South Africa if you want that platinum. God knows you can't deal with Russia anymore because of our own stupidity. 50% of lithium comes from Australia, and 20% comes from Chile. There is only one lithium mine in all of the United States. Isn't that interesting? You'd think we would find more. There's only one. Everything else comes from Australia and Chile. 35% of nickel comes from Indonesia. 10% comes from Russia. 30% of copper comes from Chile. So again, these countries are necessary. We, America, the American Empire, the Build Back Better group, we need access to these. And if these countries get on the wrong side of us, or if we start problems with them, there goes our access. So the idea of the Biden administration, this is sort of a perfect encapsulation of the Biden administration. They are simultaneously threatening China all over the place while proposing a Build Back Better program that is completely and utterly dependent on China for the materials they need for the electric vehicles. They're so stupid. They're so backwards. They can't even comprehend. They're not playing 4D chess. They're barely playing Chinese checkers. And if they play this against China, it will be checkmate, because China is not fucking around. China, rare earth group, state controlled, they own 60 to 70% of the rare earth minerals. So it's not like some foreign company operating in China is in there mining these minerals and America can just buy them from that foreign company. It's state controlled. It's China state controlled access to these minerals. So if you get on the wrong side of China, they just say, we're not selling to you. Or if we do sell it to you, we'll sell it to you for 10 times more than it's worth. Either way, you're in a bad strategic position. So let's talk about a rare earth mineral that you've never heard of, but you're going to start hearing more of. Neodymium. Neodymium is found in cell phones, AirPods, and electric cars. It is used to create magnets that are needed in these items. It needs this vibration. It's magnetic and it creates this vibration. It's part of the AirPods. It's needed for cell phones. It's known already, and it's known how much it's needed. And China controls 80% of the world's supply of neodymium. So China got into a little issue with Japan a couple years ago over some contested islands. And Japan said, oh, these are ours. And China said, no, these are ours. And Japan said, well, anyway, we need to buy some neodymium from you. And China said, well, it's for sale, but would they just mark the price up 500% before they sold it to Japan? So don't think for a second that this won't be used as a weapon. It most certainly will. China controls it. They were smart to control it. They have access to these mines. You know, in America, you identify some land. You say, well, there's a mine here. We want to burrow into this mountain. We want to do this. We submit all these plans, and that whole process from start to finish is like 8 to 10 years of approval. In China, if you want to start, bore a big mine somewhere, and the Chinese state government also wants you to do that, it starts immediately. So again, because of our regulatory red tape, everything is going to take so much longer in America. If we even figure out that we need to do this, China took advantage of it. They figured this out years ago. So this is a geopolitical catastrophe in the making. You're just handing them control of an element that we need because we've just decided all of a sudden that we have to have it and we must have it and everything must run, everything must be electric. And okay, fine. But just understand that by doing that, you're now forcing certain elements, some rare earth minerals, to become extremely necessary. And then, so if you do that, you better know who controls them, because you're going to need to be on good terms with them, because you're going to need them because they're extremely necessary. And if your enemy controls all of them, then you have made a strategic blunder. And that is, of course, what America has done. General Motors is trying to source it in America, neodymium. But there's only one place for it. It's this mine in Southern California. And good luck. Good luck with that. They say, well, we've got it. We locked it up. We found a place that's going to give us all of the neodymium that we need. But nobody believes them. So let's wrap it up with this. Let's talk about we mentioned pricing, price gouging. I mentioned what China did to Japan just on that one instance in 2011 when they had a neodymium sort of situation. Price of lithium was up 500% from last year. This is not trending in the right direction. Price of cobalt was up 80% just 1 year. Look out, Democratic Republic of Congo. Price of nickel was up 33% just last year. What do you think these prices are going to do when all of a sudden everybody is forced to switch over to electric vehicles? Do you think they're going to give you a bulk discount? No. No, you'll say, well, I need this lithium, I need this cobalt or this nickel. And they'll say, well, here's the price. And say, God damn, that's the price? That's way too high. And they'll say, oh, okay, well then feel free to go shop around and compare prices. Good luck finding somebody else that'll sell it to you. And by the way, next time you come back here, the price is going to be even higher. Oh, but by the way, the miners, the people that are running the mines, they are now forced to deal with ESG scores as well. So now not only are you being forced to mine these elements that you have to have, you're like rushing to mine them in a process that you can't speed up because, like I said, it takes 8 to 10 years to open a new mine. Not only with all that, on top of that, you have to comply with ESG, or else the green banks that Biden funded won't be able to finance you if your ESG score is too low. So now you don't have the money to even start the mine to mine this shit in the first place because you have to worry about ESG. Everything about this is a disaster. It's like they forgot to think it all the way out or something. You can't invest in Congo unless the mines are ESG approved. Do you understand this? And yet you have child slaves mining in Congo for the cobalt. I don't know a ton about the ESG scores. I mean, I know a little bit and we've done some shows on it, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that having child slaves mine your materials for you probably frowned upon. I'm not sure if it's the environmental or social component of the ESG scores where you will get dinged, but it's certainly one of those. Child slaves are no good. Battery prices are going up. They're not going down. Economies of scale don't really matter when raw materials are going up 500%. This whole thing is an unmitigated disaster. But again, what would you expect? I mean, what would you really expect from the Biden administration that has Pete Buttigieg in charge of transportation and Kamala Harris trying to explain to you time? Okay. This is as good as it's going to get. Or when he's not doing like presentations, where he's not dividing the nation in speeches where he's dressed up like Adolf fucking Hitler. I tell you, we are living through the most interesting time in recent history, but also the dumbest too. Just the absolute dumbest. Hey, if you like this episode, you can take the additional step right now of sharing it with your friends and family. You get this episode for free. Might as well give it away for free too. It's fine with me. If you want to connect with me, the website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. You can follow me on Twitter @macroaggression. Thanks everybody. I'll talk to you soon.